Welcome back to another episode of my narrated playthrough Diablo 4. My name is Arcane from Cyberfellows Collide, and let's get into it.
Yeah, take it away, Ernie! It's going to be a bumpy ride!
So a quick recap of Act 1. Lilith is summoned. Lilith convinces Vinard, Neryl's mother, to help her get to Lilith's son. We follow after them and murder the mother, requiring Neryl to resurrect her for a few moments so that we can follow after Lilith. Sometime in the past before this, Inarius murdered their son together, Lilith finds the key to hell, and we're all caught up.
Good.
As is tradition for me, who cares about the main quest? We're doing side quests. The first one we find is an exorcism.
Your mewling has no power here.
Thankfully, we blast them in the face with a bunch of swords and spears made out of the elemental forces. Yeah, the demons never stood a chance.
The power of
Sword.
compels you!
You know what does stand a chance? This random guy who tells us that he was extorted for protection, but then assures us that he can pay us back and more. Why do you think I'll give you back your gems? You obviously aren't very good at this whole thing considering you got extorted already.
What doesn't kill you?
Usually succeeds in a second attempt.
That notwithstanding, let's be kind today. And by that, I mean let's go murder some ruffians. Okay, enough procrastination. Time for us to actually progress the plot and figure out what Lilith is up to now. To do that, we go and investigate Elden Keep. Things are certainly looking interesting when the first thing we are told is,
The Glen folk will find any reason to slander the cathedral.
everything is totally fine! Moving past them, we end up speaking to Donan and his son Yoren. Turns out that there was an incident at Donan's estate that he refuses to talk about, surrounded by the Knights Penitent. Instead, he tells us to go to his estate while letting Yoren go out and do something because he feels stifled under his father's shadow. Oh no, daddy issues.
I prefer really not to speak.
Along the way to the estate, more side quests. First up, murder a bunch of wildlife to preserve history. I am sure we will be remembered fondly. For some reason, the last tablet just wouldn't drop though, so I ended up just moving on to the main quest instead. I'm pretty sure that I went back later and it dropped on the first mob because, that's why.
Your game absolutely sucks!
Things don't get much better when we get to Donan's estate. Turns out that Lilith had attempted to seduce him, pull him to the dark side, but had failed.
I can make you the hero you are.
She wanted to know more about a demon named Astaroth that Donan and his two party members had sealed away many years before. Well, they told everyone they murdered it, but that was a complete lie. Somehow during this 30-second cutscene, the estate was overrun by goat people that we then murder.
Obviously.
No idea why there are goat people, by the way, but Donan seems to think it was because Lilith was there.
Of course.
Donan is also super worried about his two party members, thinking that Lilith will question them since she wasn't able to get anything from Donan. Seems legit. Let's go find him.
Yes, I think you're onto something.
First up, though, even more side quests. Sadly, none of these are terribly interesting, but I'm sure they'll get better than the random couple of fetch quests that we did. I did run into a funny bug though, where the roof of the house I tried to enter just never disappeared, so I had to run around without being able to see anything. Particularly ironic because the building had the wardrobe, which I had been planning to use to change my clothes because all of the outfits are terrible, but guess the game was like,
Never?
First on our list of party members to find is Erida. Before that, though, we find Yoren trying to help out a village that is being overrun by spirits. He agrees to help us find Erida even though we are warned we'll probably die, but off we go. Quick murder spree later and we find the Weeping Cairns protected by a door enshrouded in druidic symbols. Yoren, conveniently, is able to open the door and we descend into the cairn, not to be confused with descending into the Cairn. Boo! Deeper down we find an elegy written by Erida for all of those who died defending themselves against Astaroth. Unfortunately, many of the spirits then attempt to murder us. I hope Erida is still a good guy. Never mind.
Only one of us will walk away from this.
We quickly find the cairn of the elders defiled by Erida. That hope lasted so incredibly long. Before we have any time to figure out where we go from here with that knowledge, though, we run into Yoren's friends, who tell us that Erida and Lilith passed through here to a nearby hill. Before we get to her, though, we have to deal with this godforsaken fog by delving into it, and murdering the thing. Seriously guys, what did you expect? It's Diablo, not Animal Crossing. Here we deal in murder and exploitation, not capitalism. Oh, wait.
Okay.
It's time for our confrontation with Erida. She has a very way of nature, death and tragedy or growth mindsets that fits the game, but our character objects. She even refuses to give us any information on what she discussed with Lilith, unless we show her we are stronger in a martial contest. Thankfully, we cheat and use magic. Considering she mostly just stands there and shoots lightning on the ground that takes forever to land, she isn't the most terribly difficult fight. I do kinda hate the tornadoes that she throws at you though. Absolute personal skill issue, but I just could not dodge them to save my life and end up getting knocked back a ton.
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Eventually I decided to just use my teleport on all of them and she went down pretty quickly. Turns out that Erida told Lilith about the wards on Astaroth's prison. Her justification? These young people don't know how difficult it was for us now that we made it better. How ungrateful, you need to know Cataclysm!
If they cannot vanquish him, how can they stand against the full might of hell?
Yeah, so while no one else is watching, she just randomly drops dead. No idea what happened. Back in the encampment, Yoren is fired up over the tragedy of Erida's fall and decides to go back and tell Daddy what's going on. Rather than bore you guys with even more side quests, let's just move on to the last member we need to find, the asshole Nefane who decided that he hated Donan. When we go to his shack, we don't end up finding Nefane though. Instead, we find the far superior doggo Fjorben, who leads us back to where Nefane is strung up with his entire lower body cut off. You see all of the blood on the ground everywhere? Seems like the game is trying to tell us that it's all Nefane's. I don't know whether to be impressed or utterly horrified. Let's go with both.
Disgusting!
Turns out that Nefane had made a deal with Lilith, shocker, and is now annoyed with her.
I am beyond saving.
He tells us that Lilith went to the north and had Fjorben help us out. I guess this entire time Nefane will be just like chilling on the tree? Guys! So around here is where I finally give up my dreams of being an elemental summoner and decide to dedicate myself to lightning damage. I'll still use my lightning spear and chain lightning for damage, but I replaced the ice spears for some ice armor. I kinda accepted that damage will not be my strong suit, but tankiness? That I can do.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
As we move on, I really want to make some jokes about us needing to destroy the profane clot blocking the untamed thicket, but I'll refrain. It's a little bit too bloody for my taste. Finally, we reach the end of the River of Blood and find worse doggo, diseased knockoff Cerberus. It's really important to Fjorben that we make sure this thing knows it's worse than him, so we oblige by zapping it with lots and lots of electricity. Sadly, the amalgam of rage gestation runs away before we can truly let it know that it isn't a good boy. Left without any demonic denizens of destruction to abuse, we head back to Nefane to talk. And by talk, I mean put him out of his misery by stabbing him in the chest with a spear. Actions are worth 1,000 words, right? Unfortunately, by the time we return to Donan's estate, it's already been run through by Lilith and her pet. Most of the residents lie dead, but we managed to find our way to Donan, who has managed to survive until now. For some reason, he's convinced that the cosmic entity stuck in an eternal war with angels really cares about him in particular and is trying to destroy specifically his life. Main character syndrome where? He finally admits to us that he didn't actually kill Astaroth, but instead locked him in a crystal and kept him under his castle.
It was a last resort. I built Eldheim over the stone to contain its evil.
We quickly travel down in the depths to see what's going on, but we find that Lilith has already released Astaroth into the body of Donan's son, by stabbing him in the head with it like a unicorn horn. Beyond that, though, Astaroth and Lilith made a deal. Astaroth's freedom for free travel for Lilith in an undisclosed location. Lilith's plans are truly coming to fruition.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Final confrontation time. Unicorn Yoristaroth atop his pet demon Cerberus versus the tankiest sorcerer known to the realm.
My boy.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Called out for you, wept until his tears became fire.
Like, I'm using 3 of the defensive skills. Not sure exactly how the editor is going to present this fight, but there are several times when I said, screw the mechanics, I'm just going to stand here and start blasting. Most of the fight boils down to don't get hit by the dog when he jumps at you or breathes fire at you, and dodge the meteors thrown by the rider. If you can do that, this boss literally cannot touch you. Or you can do what I did and laugh at his puny damage as you tickle him slowly with blasts of lightning. He repeats his earlier trick of running away when he loses health a few times, but eventually he falls. Guess you can't teach this old dog new tricks. While Donan cradles the dead body of his son, we walk away like the total badasses we are, and then stand there for 5 minutes celebrating over the loot we just got. 2 legendaries? Both of which work? Yorn can die as many times as he wants in my book.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Farewell.
And on that amazing mental image that totally doesn't justify throwing me in a mental hospital, that's the end of Act 2. Where will Lilith's plans take us in the next few acts? Will we finally catch up to her and punish her? Or will we keep chasing after her like a simp after an OnlyFans creator? Only time will tell. Hope that you all are doing great, and see you next time as we take on Act 3.